Hello, and welcome back to Clark Crawford Sports Talk. Today I'm going to be getting into a Week 13 NFL recap along with the Week 14 preview. So let's get started. 6 teams were on a bye in Week 13, which include Buffalo, Chicago, Minnesota, Las Vegas, the New York Giants, and the Baltimore Ravens. So to begin the teams who actually played in Week 13, we start with the Dolphins and Commanders game. Now, I'm bringing this game up. I know it was a blowout, but it needs to be mentioned that one of my top 5 MVP candidates from my shorts video last week, Tyreek Hill, which you should go watch. Well, Tyreek Hill had 157 receiving yards and 2 touchdowns. He only needs 519 yards to become the first receiving yards to become the first player ever to reach 2,000 in a season. Tyreek Hill is incredible. In my opinion, if he doesn't finish top 5 in the MVP, that's just insane. He's been great. Tyreek Hill is a remarkable player. Kansas City Chiefs are probably regretting trading Tyreek Hill to the Miami Dolphins. Now, the next game on the slate was the Eagles and 49ers, as many expected this to be the game of the week in a NFC title game rematch. Well, it turned out to be one of the worst games of the week. Like the Commanders and Dolphins game, it was a blowout. The 49ers went on to win 42-19. They dominated just about every aspect of the game as Brock Purdy was back and the 49ers were right. If they had Brock Purdy, maybe they would have won the NFC title game last year, but that remains to be seen. The Eagles just were out of sorts from the beginning, like they have been in a lot of their games this season. The difference was the 49ers are the best team they faced all year, and they proved to be the better team on Sunday. Now, if they match up in the playoffs, I think it comes down to whoever has home field advantage will win the game. I think it's as simple as that. So we'll see if those two teams square off later in the season. But the Eagles have bigger problems because they're only a game up in the division, and they've played the Cowboys in Dallas on Sunday night. I'll get to that game later on in the video. The Packers upset the Chiefs 27-19. Kansas City fell to 8-4 in the season, while the Packers moved to 6-6. Kansas City lost notably 2 key defensive players in the game, with linebacker Drew Tranquill and defensive back Brian Cook leaving the game with injuries. The Chiefs are 2-3 in their last 5 games, and to say the least, this is not the dominating Chiefs team from last season who won the Super Bowl. In my opinion, the biggest issue with the Chiefs right now, which is holding them back, is the play calling. I mean, if you look at their red zone play calling, judging a game from last year to this year, it hasn't been good. I mean, Patrick Mahomes, in my opinion, more times than not, is scrambling for his life. And when he does scramble, he gets ridiculous calls to where he gets a personal foul penalty when he's inbounds and he gets hit. It's disgusting how much favoritism Patrick Mahomes gets, but I'll talk about that later in the video. The Packers are on a hot streak right now, and that needs to be noted. As earlier in the year, I kind of crapped on the Packers, saying that maybe Jordan Love isn't the answer, maybe their coach Matt LaFleur maybe needs to be let go after the season, but the Packers have righted the ship so far, and they are 6-6. And the Packers have a soft schedule the rest of the way. So one of my predictions now is the Packers are, I think, likely going to get one of those final 3 playoff spots in the NFC. So we will see what happens, but the Packers are looking red hot, while the Chiefs have a date with the Buffalo Bills coming up, so it doesn't get easier for Kansas City coming off losing 2 out of their last 3. Cowboys and Seahawks from Week 13 ended in a shootout, with Dallas winning 41-35. Seattle has lost 3 in a row, dropping a heartbreaker in the Thursday night contest. DK Metcalf notably scored 3 touchdowns in a losing effort. He did all he could to try to end their 2-game skid, which is obviously now a 3-game skid. Seattle's desperately hanging on, trying to survive and make a wild card spot at this point in the NFC, and Seattle just looks a mess right now. I still think they have a good chance of getting into the wild card, but Seattle has a lot of things to fix before that can happen. So Seattle is kind of in desperation mode right now. So good luck, Seattle, but things aren't looking good right now. On the other hand, the Cowboys are one of the hottest teams in the NFL right now, led by top 5 MVP candidate Dak Prescott. They also have a top 5 defense going for them, and the emergence of CeeDee Lamb since week 6 has arguably has been the second best receiver behind Tyreek Hill since week 6, as well as he's second in the NFL behind Tyreek Hill in receiving yards. Dallas has been incredible as of late. Now, their date with the Eagles coming up is arguably the best matchup in week 14, and it has so many implications that I'll talk about later. So, one team's ice cold, really going to be interesting how things shake up in the NFC wildcard, and potentially Dallas could win the division. Moving on to another MVP candidate, C.J. Stroud. He won his 7th game as a rookie as the Texans won a nail biter against the Broncos, helping the Broncos end their 5-game win streak. C.J. Stroud has been impressive yet again as the Texans are 7-5. If the Texans make the playoffs, I think an argument can be made C.J. Stroud should win MVP. He's definitely going to win Offensive Rookie of the Year, but the Texans have been one of the most impressive teams in the NFL, and C.J. Stroud is the biggest reason why. Now, the downside to the Texans' win on Sunday was they lost Stroud's favorite wide receiver target, Tank Dell, for the season with a fractured fibula. That's bad news for Houston. If they can get Dalton Schultz back, they just got Dameon Pierce back, along with Nico Collins, Robert Woods, and Noah Brown. I think the Texans have just enough weapons to still win some more games with the soft schedule coming up that they still have a very good chance of getting into the playoffs. So we'll see what happens down the road, but you still got CJ Stroud, you still got Rookie of the Year, Coach of the Year candidate in DeMeco Ryans. They've still got plenty left in the tank to potentially make a postseason run if they get into the playoffs. Monday night game featured the Bengals traveling to Jacksonville to play the Jaguars. The Bengals pulled off an upset win, 34-31, where Jake Browning had the game of his life, easily his best game since college, as he hasn't seen much in-game action in his second career start. Jake Browning was incredible, and he deserves credit for the Bengals win. He found Jamar Chase one of the best receivers in the league a lot, and as a backup quarterback, that's what you got to do. If you want to be successful and potentially get a job later on, you hit your best targets. Jamar Chase had one of his best games, if not his best game of the season, and Joe Mixon ran wild. The Bengals won the game and stole that game away from the Jaguars. Now, something that needs to be mentioned is Jaguars quarterback Trevor Lawrence left the game in the second half, which is being reported as a high ankle sprain for now. He is questionable to play this Sunday. We don't know whether he's going to play or not, but if you ask me, I'm leaning towards he's going to miss at least 1 to 2 to 3 weeks. So that's bad news for the Jaguars. My biggest takeaway from the game is Jake Browning had the performance of his career and has a shot to lead Cincinnati to a wild card berth. Now, as I'm saying about Jake Browning, don't sleep on the Bengals, as if Browning can replicate one of those performances as he did on Monday night, get the ball to his playmakers, this team is capable of making some noise in the AFC and being a sleeper team in the postseason. Last thing I want to mention from the fallout of Week 13 is the product the Jets are putting on the field. It was another horrific performance. They scored a total of 8 points. I mean, I'm just thankful the Jets and Patriots weren't playing, because that game might have ended in a 0-0 tie. Another crap performance from the Jets, as the game was so bad. The fallout from the game is, well, Tim Boyle is out of a job. Going to watch the Jets the rest of the season. The Jets are a horrific team. They should be looking forward to 2024, maybe even 2025 at this point, as a lot of the offseason moves they made have not panned out. So good luck next year, Jets. You suck. Your team is just going down in flames this season. I know you lost Aaron Rodgers, but hey, a lot of other teams have lost their quarterbacks and are doing much better than you. Move on to Week 14. Week 14 kicks off with The Thursday night game of the century? No, it's definitely not. I'm kidding. The Thursday night game is the 2-10 Patriots headed to Pittsburgh to face the Steelers. Now, I want to say viewer discretion is advised. I predict this is going to be a toilet bowl of a game as it features a likely quarterback matchup of Bailey Zappi versus Mitch Trubisky. You told me that in the beginning of the year. I would say both teams have a losing record. Now, fortunately for the Steelers, they have a winning record coming into this game. So the last thing I want to say about this game is, if you're looking for a bad football game in prime time, this is the game for you. It's going to be ugly. I will definitely not be watching this game. Flip side of that, a game to look forward to in my mind is the Rams versus the Ravens. The Rams are traveling to Baltimore to play this game as the Ravens are coming off of a bye week. The Rams, over the past month, have had one of the best offenses in the league. Now, the Ravens all season, at least fantasy-wise, and I think if I looked up everything, they would have one of the better defenses in the league as well, not just fantasy-wise, but the Ravens are 9-3, fighting to get the number one seed in the AFC. So this game should be an exciting game as the Rams have a lot to fight for. They're unlikely to win the division, but they've been one of the surprise teams this season in the NFL, with superstar rookie Puka Nacua leading the offense with Matthew Stafford throwing to him. The Rams have been, like I said, one of the better teams over the last month. So I think this is a game to look forward to. I think I lean towards the Ravens winning this game because they play better at home as opposed to on the road. So Colts versus the Bengals is up next in my preview slate. The Colts are 7-5 with the Bengals 6-6. I talked about the Bengals a little bit earlier. Both teams are fighting to stay in the wild card hunt, as the Colts are actually only a game back in the division, though I think the Jaguars are likely to still win the division. Though it needs to be mentioned, the division is still up for grabs with the potential Trevor Lawrence missing multiple weeks with an injury. The Colts have impressed me this year in year one under rookie head coach Shane Steichen, as with backup QB Gardner Minshew has played most of the season as a starter because rookie Anthony Richardson got hurt early in the year and is out for the year. Now, back to the Bengals, Jake Browning, another chance to pull off an upset as they play at home this week. If he plays the game of his life like he did on Monday night, I like Cincinnati's chances in this game at home. With a plethora of quarterback injuries this season is the highlight of the next matchup. It's yet another battle, which there are several of them this week, with backup quarterbacks. Can I interest anybody in watching either Dorian Thompson-Robinson or Joe Flacco versus likely CJ Beathard, which is a matchup that would feature the Browns and the Jaguars? It could have potential to be a good, surprising game, but if you ask me, I'm saying as far as possible away from this one. With yet another backup quarterback matchup, it's probably going to be an ugly game, just like the Thursday night game. I would not come anywhere close to watching this game at all unless you have a couple fantasy players playing in that game, which thankfully for me, I do not, other than Travis Etienne. But hey, you know what? Even though he's playing, I'm not going to be watching. I'll just be following the stats and watching the highlights, if there are any highlights from the game. A matchup between the Vikings going to the Las Vegas Raiders is an interesting game for me this upcoming week. Will Josh Dobbs remain the starter? Reports are Josh Dobbs is going to start, so I'm not sure if that's good or bad for the Vikings coming off of a bye week, but also the last time he played, he threw 4 interceptions. Now, the good news is the Vikings have activated Justin Jefferson, who hasn't played since week 5 when he left the game against Kansas City with a hamstring injury. So the good news is you might get the best receiver in football back, but the bad news is he's coming off of a 4 interception, or quarterback Josh Dobbs is coming off of a 4 interception performance. So the Vikings are coming off their worst loss of the season in week 12 when they lost a barn burner, low-scoring matchup to the Chicago Bears in a game the Vikings should have easily won. The Raiders are a much-improved team since they fired head coach Josh McDaniels a few weeks back. Antonio Pierce has been a surprise interim coach. So we'll see what happens in that game. I think it has potential to be a good game between the Vikings and the Raiders. The game on the slate will be Josh Allen squaring off with his rival Pat Mahomes on Sunday in Kansas City. The Bills are 6-6 as the Chiefs come into the game 8-4. The Bills are on the outside looking in to the playoff hunt, and they could use a signature win, which would be beating Kansas City, as they are facing the defending Super Bowl champs. The Bills need prime Josh Allen to pull off an upset. Meanwhile, Kansas City could also use a get-right game, as their offense for much of the season has been subpar. I anticipate a close game in this one, with both teams firing on all cylinders, and may the better team win. I hope we get prime Josh Allen versus prime Patrick Mahomes. Game of the week I want to preview will be a battle of first place in the NFC East between the Philadelphia Eagles traveling to Dallas to face the Dallas Cowboys. If the Eagles win, they maintain first place and increase their lead into the division to 2 games with 4 games to play. Now, if Dallas wins, they take over first place in the NFC East for the first time this season, and what a gut punch that would be for the Eagles, considering they've had a several-game lead for a while, but their slip-up and blowout loss to the 49ers brings the Cowboys to within a game of the Eagles, as this could be one of the best games of the year, as their last matchup was a one-score game as well. So everything on the line. Everything is on the line here in this game, as I expect it to be a bloodbath between 2 of the biggest division rivals in the league. Now, the Eagles have been shaky as of late on both sides of the football, while Dallas comes into the game on a hot streak. I believe with Dallas being at home in this game, they have a slight edge, but I could see this contest going either way. Win or lose, I think both teams are Super Bowl contenders. I'm going to do it here for another episode of Clark Crawford Sports Talk. I hope everyone who watches this video enjoys it, and if you aren't already, don't forget to subscribe to my channel, and I'll see y'all in the next video.